All right, class. So I'm going to use this video to show you a couple of definitions. One we've already done, but then just a couple basic definitions that tie in with classifying organisms and studying their relationships. And then I'm going to show you how to read a tree that we would see with this kind of information. All right, so we've already done last video the idea of taxonomy. And then we are also going to look at what's called phylogeny. All right, so taxonomy, we said, was the study of naming and, it's a horrible end, naming and grouping. All right, that's what taxonomy was. And then phylogeny is going to look at the evolutionary relationships. Okay, so those are different features we would be studying, right? Like we could study evolutionary relationships without doing taxonomy. Like the taxonomy part could already be done. And then we can definitely do taxonomy without doing evolutionary relationships. Hey, if we take all of this together, taxonomy and phylogeny, so the naming, the grouping, the evolutionary relationship stuff, what we're studying in biology is a field called systematics. So systematics does taxonomy and phylogeny. It's doing everything from the naming, grouping, classification, all the way through the how are we looking at these evolutionary relationships. And one of the things that we get from systematics is we build these things called evolutionary trees. Okay, so we may see these, like, for real technically, you're probably going to see these called phylogenetic trees. But to me, like, we don't necessarily need that. We can just say these are evolutionary trees. Right? So when we do systematics and we're looking at all this stuff up here, here's the kind of result we get. This is an evolutionary tree or a phylogenetic tree. Hey, the one thing I want to mention to you with this is branch points represent ancestors. Okay, so all these areas where we get these branches, anywhere, doesn't matter where it's at, what it looks like, as long as it's a branch. Hey, branches, just think of them as ancestors, right? It's a split, kind of like a split in the population idea. When we did evolution, I showed you a picture where we said we have this population of something, we called it A. Some of them evolved to in an environment like this, so now they've changed. Some of them evolved in an environment like this, now they've changed, right? So we could have all together A and B and C living in this area, right? Just because of how they've adapted differently to different environments. And that's the kind of stuff we're looking at. So we use these trees, like if you saw this tree and there was some question like, what is which of these things is more closely related to the eastern lowland gorilla? Here's the eastern lowland gorilla. So if we're just looking at this and we say, well, what's more closely related to it? Well, we can figure that out now because here's our branch point that shows common ancestry. And from that branch point, we get two things, the eastern lowland gorilla and the western gorilla. So we would answer that, what's the closest living relative, as the western gorilla. Okay, so it gives us the ability to look at those evolutionary relationships in a figure, in a diagram, not just with a bunch of text. All right, so that's taxonomy. We've done taxonomy. Phylogeny is the relationship idea, and we put all that together in systematics, and it looks like these trees.